So it doesn't sound like you're quite a yes yet on the version that just passed the House of Representatives. What changes do you want to make?
Well, folks know I don't negotiate in the press, so I'm not going to do that with you.
Yes, Kyrsten Sinema, the woman on an island who knows better than us all. You know, everyone else goes left and she's the sole person who goes right because she's the all-knowing and she's just smarter than all of us. That's why she doesn't, waste her time talking about such complicated matters to the media or the petty public. Her constituents, who cares?
I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
I think it's
and I'm wondering,
quite interesting.
I know you've met with dozens of lobbyists. I did not touch you. I'm meeting with dozens. I know you're meeting with dozens of lobbyists.
The world doesn't really want to
talking with corporate donors about the package. How many times will you meet with constituents?
Today, well.
How many times have you met with constituents when negotiating bills?
Sorry about this.
I think it's part of the course, right?
I personally believe that the best way to create legislation is to be thoughtful and careful so that we're crafting legislation that truly represents the interests that we want to achieve and that creates a benefit and helps people all across Arizona and the country.
So today we're going to focus on tax loophole schemes, specifically the conservation easement program and how the wealthy have been taking advantage of that for years. How there's been a bipartisan effort from both parties to rein in the damaging effects of this, and how Kyrsten Sinema, Democratic Senator of Arizona, is the only Democrat in the entire party who's been really pushing to dismantle this bipartisan effort. So the conservation easement program is a program that gives property owners and landowners the opportunity to give up some of those rights to that property, specifically development, in return for tax breaks from the government. So that land is conserved for natural purposes. Let's say you own 20 acres, you give up 5 of it. Those 5 acres cannot be developed on. That's 5 extra acres for natural purposes for the ecosystem. So naturally, what ended up happening years ago is the wealthy came together and realized that if they, purchase large plots of cheap land, they can get an appraiser to come in and greatly overvalue the worth of that land. Once that land is greatly overvalued, Uncle Sam pays out way bigger tax breaks, tax deductions than that land is worth. And that scheme actually cost taxpayers, U.S. taxpayers, $9.2 billion in 2018 alone. So you can see the damaging effects of that. The average taxpayer has to make up the difference for that conservation easement scheme. Okay, so you can see how that works and why, institutions like the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, are routinely gutted so that they can't go after people who use one of these most commonly abused tax loopholes. So Kyrsten Sinema, back to her again, the only Democrat in the entire party who's against the reform of this and the bipartisan reform, because really, at the end of the day, all she wants is a job from a lobbying firm after her term is over. Some type of lobbying firm that invests millions of dollars into keeping tax deduction schemes like this in place so that the IRS cannot take a deeper look. So let's take a look at the article I got this information from to see just how much money lobbying firms really give into this scheme and how corrupt Kyrsten Sinema truly is. Over the years, the effort to secure conservation easement has become something of a real business. So-called promoters of the deductions pitch and recruit investors to buy into easements as they might with any other more common investment products. Investors give the promoter money in exchange for a share of the easement, basically the donation of property rights, which, in turn, they can claim for a tax break. The process of appraising the value of the land for tax deduction purposes is where the returns are most inflated. There are examples of tracts of land being bought for thousands of dollars an acre before being appraised at dozens of times the value for tax purposes. As part of an investigation by the Senate Finance Committee, the committee obtained slide decks in which prospective investors were told by a firm that they could receive a charitable deduction of more than $4 for every $1 they contributed to a partnership entity involved in property transactions. According to the report, a number of ventures relied on an appraiser who systematically overvalued properties, like mines, and netted investors hefty deductions as they promised to forego development on properties facing little risk of it. Partners for Conservation and other pro-conservation easement entities have spent a combined total of nearly $1 million lobbying the Senate this year alone on the issue. According to public disclosure filings, Partnership for Conservation has spent $720,000 so far this year on the lobbying effort, hiring the elite DC lobbying firm Holland & Knight. And like I said, this is exactly where and who Senator Kyrsten Sinema is aiming for.